process, proudly brought to you by Buchan Furnitures Limited. Local manufacturers of quality office furniture and dealers in quality office equipment like fireproof safes and cabinets. For orders, visit our showroom at Uniafric House, Koinange Land off Koinange Street.
It's Tuesday, 18th, the time, 9 p.m. East African time. Good evening from Nairobi, Kenya. I am Mboya.
Live from the Broadcasting House, I'm Purity Museo and welcome to the broadcast. Susan Thuku is our sign language interpreter tonight.
Top on KBC Prime Edition. Attempting to salvage the BBI bill, appeal hearing kicks off at Supreme Court with AG faulting the High Court.
A Black Tuesday for Wanjigi, ODM presidential hopeful barricaded by police before finally being arrested.
Every Kenyan, wherever they are, if there is one single patriotic duty each one of us must accomplish, is to form the next government using your vote.
And wooing the city, Deputy President William Ruto sweeps the capital city, Nairobi, with rallies urging locals to support his presidential bid. Thank you very much indeed for joining us.
At KBC Channel 1 News, at Purity_Museo, at Mboya 24, the hashtag is Prime Edition. Talk to us. We are also live on all our social media platforms.
Our top story, the hearing of the BBI appeal that kicked off at the Supreme Court Tuesday with Attorney General Paul Kihara seeking court orders to set aside decisions of the Court of Appeal as well as the High Court that civil proceedings can be instituted against a sitting president.
Kihara also wants the Apex Court to pronounce itself that a president can initiate a popular initiative as denying him the same was infringing on his constitutional right.
The first day of the hearing of the Constitutional Amendment Bill 2021 appeal at the Supreme Court on Tuesday kicked off with a ruling by a 7-judge bench led by the Chief Justice Martha Koome. All parties were allowed to have 15 more minutes, allowing those willing to donate time to do so too.
Taken in the currency.
The Attorney General, who was the first appellant, will seek for the Apex Court to clarify what the basic structure is and whether it's applicable in the Kenyan Constitution. Represented by Solicitor General Ken Ogeto, the AG says the judges did not agree on what the basic structure is and if it's applicable in Kenya.
Even if the basic structure doctrine was applicable in Kenya, which we dispute, the absence of clarity on what the basic structure is would create much legal and constitutional difficulty.
They will be supported with a number of respondents represented by the BBI Secretariat, National Assembly, Senate, among others.
And the words I would use to describe the basic structure doctrine is that it is a very unruly horse, and once you get astride, you will never know where it is going to carry you.
And Samuel Johnson convinced those with whom he was having an argument that if you want to prove that a stone exists, just kick it. Don't involve yourself in an argument whether the stone exists or not. So in this, the question that is before the court is as to whether the impugned provisions of the constitutions are amendable or not amendable.
Justice must not only be done, but must be seen to be done, and the courts of law ought not to interpret and apply the law in a manner that would lead to a predetermined outcome.
On whether the president can initiate a popular initiative, the Attorney General argues that the provisions of the Constitution do not discriminate between private citizens, which includes the president.
If you look at Article 24, which is the only one that deals with limitation of rights, it says a right or fundamental freedom in the Bill of Rights shall not be limited except by law, which means there would be a law that then limits the president's rights, because there is no dispute that the president has the right to vote. Why would we take his political rights to participate in a political cause?
On presidential immunity from civil proceedings, the Attorney General is against a judgment by the Court of Appeal and the High Court seeking the head of state to be insulated while discharging his constitutional mandate. The appellants arguing that subjecting the president to civil proceedings amounts to compromising the security of the nation, as it will give enemies fodder to their action. The Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, IEBC, contesting the ruling that the Court of Appeal and High Court on unconstitutionality of statutory provisions and decisions in relation to the mandate and its quorum. Well, the first day ends with the first two appellants having highlighted their submissions and also the supporting respondents to their submissions, with now remaining is just one appellant, who is Morara Omoke, among other respondents that are expected to highlight their submissions in the remaining 2 days before the 7-judge bench of the Supreme Court. Sarafina Robi for Prime Edition.
Thank you so much, Sarafina, for that report, and KBC will be following up on that developing story. Attorney General Paul Kihara is basing his appeal at the Supreme Court on 5 grounds as he attempts to salvage the BBI bill nullified by the High Court and upheld by the Court of Appeal. The AG is challenging the notion that Kenyan Constitution is anchored on basic structure doctrine that insulates some sections from being amended. Ben Troy reports.
Before a full 7-judge bench of the Supreme Court, the BBI appeal case began in earnest.
Appellant to go first.
The AG, who is the chief government legal advisor, basing his appeal on 5 grounds. The AG further challenging the findings that the president does not have the power to initiate a constitutional change through a popular initiative, and whether the president can be sued in his personal capacity for his actions while in office. He also faulted the appellate court on its finding on the creation of 70 additional constituencies, arguing that they ignored the rights of citizens who have the power to determine electoral boundaries through a referendum. IEBC, which is the second appellant, is challenging the findings on its constitutional composition, quorum, and mandate. Former Prime Minister Raila Odinga and his BBI secretariat in its submissions argue that the proposal to amend clauses of a constitution that are amendable cannot be said to be unconstitutional, and that the BBI task force was legally constituted. The case continues. For Prime Edition, I'm Ben Troy.
Let's now look at the BBI chronology and efforts to salvage the Building Bridges initiative that was to alter the architect of Kenya's governance system is now at its critical stage. And the question is, will it sink or will it float? The product of a handshake between President Uhuru Kenyatta, remember, and former Prime Minister Raila Odinga on the steps of Harambee House. The date was the 9th of March 2018, will now be determined after 3 marathon days of hearings at the Apex Court. Safina Chieng Ouma traces Kenya's journey to amend the constitution, which has now faced many headwinds, both legal as well as political.
9th of March 2018, President Uhuru Kenyatta and ODM leader Raila Odinga shook hands at the steps of Harambee House. The gesture marking the birth of the BBI initiative, whose initiators said was meant to quell political divisions across the country, synonymous with every election cycle. The process of collecting views and condensing them into a bill was left to a 14-member task force led by the late Garissa Senator Yusuf Haji. The task force would then embark on a 2-year journey to collect views from Kenyans with a 9-point agenda on issues that needed to be addressed, handing over its findings to the principals. President Uhuru Kenyatta and ODM leader Raila Odinga on the 21st of October 2020 in Kisii County, an event that preceded the official launch of the report, which was done at a colourful ceremony held on the 26th of March 2020 at the Bomas of Kenya. And on the 25th of November 2020, the BBI's signature collection drive was officially launched at the Kenyatta International Convention Center, targeting 1 million signatures as required by the Constitution to amend the Constitution under a popular initiative. Among its key proposals were the changes in the structure of the executive and legislature, with the creation of a premier and 2 deputies from a majority party in parliament, allowing cabinet secretaries and their deputies to be appointed from among legislators, creating 70 new electoral constituencies, an affirmative action formula seeking to solve the 2/3 gender rule quagmire, and creating an independent judiciary ombudsman. On the 22nd of February 2021, the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission announced that it had verified a total of 3.18 million signatures supporting the BBI bill out of the 4.3 million total signatures collected. This gave the green light for IEBC to submit to the 47 county assemblies the BBI draft bill for approval. The BBI required the approval of at least 24 counties before Kenyans could take a vote to approve or reject it in a referendum. On the 6th of May 2021, the bill sailed through the National Assembly after 235 out of the 320 members who participated in the voting exercise on the second reading of the bill supported it, against 83 who rejected it. On the 12th of May 2020, Senate also overwhelmingly passed the Constitution of Kenya Amendment Bill of 2020 after 51 senators voted in support of the bill. 12 voted against it. But the bill was slowly sailing to a bumpy road. There were at least 8 cases challenging the process filed at the High Court, which were later consolidated. On May 13th, 2021, High Court annulled the BBI referendum process. A 5-judge bench ruled that the head of state lacked authority to initiate constitutional amendment through a popular initiative. The judges were also to determine 17 questions raised on the petition against the process.
We uphold the judgment of the High Court.
On the 20th of August 2020, Court of Appeal upheld the decision by the High Court declaring the Building Bridges initiative unconstitutional and unlawful. And for the next 3 days, efforts to resuscitate the process will now lie at the judges of the Supreme Court. For Prime Edition, I'm Safin Aching Oma.
Away from BBI, businessman Jimmy Wanjigi has been arrested after being barricaded in his office by security officers for over 15 hours. Wanjigi was arrested even after his lawyers obtained court orders barring his arrest. Detectives had camped outside the businessman's politician's office in Kwacha, Westlands since last night and managed to arrest him before 5 p.m. on Tuesday.
It was a day of drama as heavily armed security officers raided the office of the Orange Democratic Movement presidential hopeful cum businessman Jimmy Wanjigi, located at Kwacha House. Wanjigi barricading himself in the office for almost 15 hours before giving in.
No, they're inside. Even all of them are inside. No cars moved out. The only cars that have moved out is in the morning, I think, when they were changing shifts.
Even attempts by his supporters to come to his rescue was met with the mighty force of security officers who lobbied tear gas to disperse them.
They were there trying to tell him to get out, and they want to go with him. But now the question is, where do they want to go with him to?
Wanjigi managing to hold off the arrest even as the officers tried breaking the door to gain entry into the office. And as Wanjigi held off the arrest, his lawyers were making frantic efforts at the courts to secure his freedom. But even the court order stopping the same could not deter the determined officers who kept watch in turns. After his arrest, Wanjigi was driven to Kamukunji police station, where he is expected to spend the night before being arraigned in court.
Of course, we'll be following that story for you. Deputy President William Ruto has appealed to the youth to take advantage of the ongoing mass voter registration to register and reject leaders known to use the youth to cause violence. The Deputy President alleges that violence is in the DNA of the Orange Democratic Movement Party, citing chaos witnessed at the Jacaranda grounds, Kondele, and also in Busia as some of the handiwork in the recent past.
Deputy President William Ruto now says the August elections will be used to erase the culture of violence in Kenya's electoral process.
Ati watupangie fujo, ati watupangie vita, ati watupangie na mawe. Mimi nataka niwaambie hawa wenzetu, mawe ni ya kujenga, mawe si ya kupigana. Waachaneni na kupatia vijana mawe. Mawe ni ya kujenga, mawe si ya kupiganisha watu. Tunaelewana watu wa Kibra?
The DP argues that the recent acts of violence, such as the one witnessed at Jacaranda grounds, is an attempt by the Orange Democratic Movement to instill fear in its opponents.
Sisi tunawaambia marafiki zetu, you cannot win any election by force. You cannot beat the people of Kenya into submission so that they can vote for you. You have to persuade them, unfortunately. So violence must be removed from the equation of the election of the Republic of Kenya. And we must remove violence permanently.
Ruto, who toured parts of Karen, Dagoretti, Kibra, Kawangware, and finally Kangemi, said Kenyans can be trusted to make the right choice at the ballot.
Mwaka huu wa Kenya wanataka kusikia sera ya kila mtu. Tafuteni sera, wachaneni na mawe. Tafuteni sera, wachaneni na fujo. Tafuteni sera, wachaneni na vita.
The Deputy President has spent the last 1 week wooing voters in Nairobi County, promising city residents an improved healthcare system.
Tulikuwa tumepanga ndani ya Big Four kwamba tutakuwa na universal health coverage mwaka huu. Kabla ya mwisho wa mwaka huu, na watangazia kila mmoja wetu atakuwa na bima ya afya ya NHIF.
Ruto on Tuesday urged Kenyans to register as voters in readiness for the August polls. For Prime Edition, I'm Gladys Mungai.
Story brings us to our first break right here on KBC Prime.
We have plenty more coming up, including business news with Cynthia Nyamai, and Karen Kibet is also on standby. She will be bringing us sports news later on. Stay with us.
Do you have a news story to share with KBC? Get in touch swiftly on email news@kbc.co.ke or call 0723-892-654 or 0734-780-124.
Beacon Furnitures Limited. We're local manufacturers of quality office furniture, dealers in quality office equipment like fireproof safes and cabinets. Our automated state-of-the-art factories at Henna House along Enterprise Road in Nairobi's industrial area. Our showroom is at Uniafrica House, Koinange off Koinange Street. We are passionate believers in locally manufactured goods. When you and I buy locally made furniture, we impact on the livelihoods of our brothers and sisters. For orders, visit our showroom at Uniafrica House, Koinange off Koinange Street. Bukun Furnitures Limited. Jenga Kenya, tupate ajira.
Many thanks for staying with us. You're watching Prime Edition this Tuesday night. Let's continue with our coverage. Speaker of the National Assembly, Justin Muturi, has accused the presidential hopefuls for training their political campaign as not to Mount Kenya region for votes, but not any other agenda. Muturi was categorical that the aspirants for the top seat have failed to outline the development agenda for the region, but were only keen on the votes for their political win.
The vote-rich terrain of the Mount Kenya region has seen 2022 presidential aspirants make unending trips towards the mountain. Already, the Azimio la Umoja movement, United Democratic Alliance Party, and the One Kenya Alliance have been to the region. National Assembly Speaker Justin Muturi has, however, faulted the presidential aspirants' agenda, whom he says are only interested in the votes.
Mtu anasema mimi nataka tu 20% ya Mlima Kenya. Sasa huyo mtu kweli ako na nia ya kutendea watu wa Mlima Kenya mema kweli? Basi ni kumaanisha sehemu kubwa ya Mlima Kenya hana haja naye. Na kweli nia yake ni ile tu, anapenda ile kitu anapenda kutoka Mlima Kenya ni kura yake.
Muturi, who has also declared his interest for the top seat under the Democratic Party, was addressing grassroots political leaders from Gatundu South, where he urged the region to guard its decency and avoid embracing any unsolicited suitors.
Kwa hivyo tunakashifu ile mambo ya watu kuja hapa kusema tunakuja kupanda Mlima Kenya, ili hali kile kitu wanataka tu ni kura zetu, lakini hawana haja na sisi.
Meanwhile, Party of National Unity has dismissed claims that there is division in the party.
PNU wishes to make it clear that it has a structure, rules and regulations, and a working constitution. We urge you to ignore the misleading statement purporting to cancel the scheduled aspirants meeting that were advertised by the party on January 14th, 2022.
Led by the chairman David Kamau, the officials say the party is intact and are fully prepared to do registration for any aspirants interested in the party ticket. And contenders eyeing the MCA positions on ODM party in the upcoming August polls in Mombasa want assurance of a free and fair party nominations. The over 50 aspirants have vowed to pioneer a peaceful campaign season before the primaries that are slated for April this year.
Tutajaribu kadiri ya uwezo wetu na ofisi hii ya ODM ndani ya kaunti ya Mombasa kuhakikisha ya kuwa nomination process imekuwa free and fair na sauti za wanachungwa ama wakazi wa Mombasa zimesikika. Watakia kila laheri na tunatarajia kuendelea mbele. Wataendelea kufanyia chama kazi na hata baada ya mchujo utasimama na chama ili kusaidia kujaza kapu la ODM na tupate viti vingi vya MCA ndani ya Mombasa.
10 contestants have ditched camp to ODM, a move that was uploaded by the members. Kamche Menza for Prime Edition.
Now, the second and final phase of the enhanced national voter registration exercise entered day 2 Tuesday, with leaders raising concerns over low turnout in the all-important election process exercise, with the commission now targeting to net at least 4.5 million new voters by February the 6th. A section of leaders claim that the 21-day period of enhanced voter registration by IEBC is insufficient to achieve the said target. Ben Chumba is our man on the voter registration beat.
A day after the Wafula Chebukati-led commission embarked on the second and final phase of enhanced voter registration across the country, voter registration apathy is a growing concern, with politicians urging masses to register and take part in the next polls.
Today, the turn-up was a bit low, but we are going to mobilize because we have told the parents to tell the youths, those who have gotten IDs the other day, to make sure they register as voters.
Chief, najua kuna ID kwa ofisi zenu. Pea wale ambao ni wasaidizi wenu wasipeane katika kila family. Ndiposa to register kama wapiga kura.
As we continue to even listen to these leaders, we can use that vote on the 9th of August this year to weed out the bad leaders and put in the leaders who can take Kenya forward.
In Kisii County, boda operators are said to be under instructions not to offer the service to unregistered voters in a move geared towards ensuring residents enlist themselves ahead of August general elections.
To ask those boda boys, don't carry anybody if he has not registered as a voter. Usibebe mtu kama hajaregister kama mpiga kura. Kura yako ndio nguvu yako.
In Usonga, Siaya County, leaders have formed a task force dubbed Rapid Response Task Force to enhance voter registration. A Lego Usonga member of parliament, Sam Atandi, said the team will work round the clock to ensure they deliver on voter registration.
Na chiefs wetu wote na assistant chiefs wetu wote, na tumeongea na tumekubaliana kwamba tunataka kuhakikisha kwamba hii process ya registration ya watu yetu wa Lego Usonga 22,000 kama projections ya IBC tumekamilisha.
In Samburu County, voter registration clerks are said to be struggling with poor means of transport, even as the commission aims to register at least 22,000 new voters in the county.
Hadi siku tumepewa ni siku chache 20. Mimi ningesema kama leader ya Samburu, hiyo kama ingewezekana wangeongezea watu hiyo muda. Wasamburu kuna watu wanabeba makipande na wako mbali, wakifuata ng'ombe zao na wako na makipande na hawajawahi kusajiliwa hata siku moja.
The ongoing enhanced voter registration exercise gives opportunity to eligible Kenyans to register as voters, transfer polling station or change their particulars. Ben Chumba, Prime Edition.
The country has recorded 392 new COVID-19 cases from a sample size of 5,730 tested in the last 24 hours, pushing the positivity rate to 6.8%. The youngest patient is an 11-month-old child, while the oldest is 102. 5 patients have succumbed to the disease, all of them being late deaths reported after conducting facility record audits in the months of December 2021 and January 2022. 856 patients have recovered from the disease, 773 from the home-based isolation and care program, while 83 are from various health facilities countrywide. Meanwhile, a total of 11.1 million vaccines have been administered across the country. Of these, 6.2 million people are partially vaccinated, while those fully vaccinated are 4.8 million. 31,164 doses have been administered to those between 15 to 18 years, while 94,941 are booster doses. Moving on, Maalim Mohamed has taken up his new role as the Rift Valley Regional Commissioner, promising to entrench peace in the region. Maalim, who took over from George Natembeya, says top on his agenda is the silencing of guns in the Kerio Valley.
Maalim Mohamed.
Maalim Mohamed comes into office with a full-in tray. Chief among them the cases of insecurity in parts of Kerio Valley.
Tutaleta ile mabadiliko watu wanatarajia kuletwa katika hii sehemu ya Rift Valley. Nikiwa county commissioner niliwahi kuleta viongozi na ndio amani ya Mount Elgon ilianzia. Tukishirikiana na wenzangu walinda usalama na washikadau mbalimbali. Hayo tatizo ambayo yanasumbua katika hii sehemu tutaitatua.
He added that security personnel would be keenly monitoring activities of politicians in the region, promising legal consequences on instigators of violence.
Mwenye atatoa matamshi ya kuchochea wa Kenya kuzozana kwa sababu ya siasa, kama huyo atakabiliwa kisheria. Tuko tayari kufanya kazi na viongozi, lakini pia wajua ya kuwa tuko macho kama serikali, na tutakuwa na hawa kila sehemu ambayo watakuwa wanafanya hiyo siasa yao.
Mohamed Maalim takes over from George Natembeya, who resigned last week to vie for the Trans Nzoia gubernatorial seat.
So wala ambao walikuwa nasema Natembeya atoa uniform, Natembeya ametoa uniform na anakuja kimeumana.
Nancy Okware, Prime Edition.
On to now a disturbing item here, the river of sorrow and the mystery of floating bodies. Police have launched investigations to ascertain the source of 19 unidentified bodies that have been retrieved from River Yala in the last 3 months. Security has also been beefed up around the Dawa Bridge and Danu Falls, the places where locals claim unidentified double-cabin pickup truck as well as a probox disposes of bodies in the dead of the night. Achola Simon with the details.
A whistleblower first raised concern over the number of dead bodies being retrieved from Yala River in December 2021. On his Twitter account, the concerned resident Joel Mbirika said that the police had been retrieving unidentified bodies from the river and taking them to Yala mortuary.
Every human being in this republic is well documented in terms of their fingerprints, because all of these bodies except 2 are adults. So how comes the police has not taken it upon themselves to do a DNA analysis, to look at the fingerprints so that they can identify that these bodies belongs to so and so and so, and that will help the community or the people to now come and identify their missing bodies. Why is the police quiet, and why is the government not decided to identify these bodies to a forensic audit?
Mbirika's claims were vindicated by documents from the Yala Sub-County Hospital, which confirmed that at least 1 body had been retrieved from the river every week from October 2nd, 2021 to 14th January this year.
And it is true that we have received a number of dead bodies from the community in the recent past. These bodies have been brought here by the police, and according to the police who bring them here, the bodies have been collected from various sections of River Yala.
Kuanzia mwezi wa 7 mpaka wa leo sijapumzika kutoa mwili kwa maji hapa kwa River Yala. Kwa ajili vile ilianzwa tu mwezi wa 7 kitu kama tarehe 14 hivi walianza kumwaga watu pale. Karibu nimetoa watu 11. Keshowe tena nikabeba wengine. Tukamaliza hiyo roya hapo. Tena baadaye ikaanziwa sasa kuwekwa kwa hii highway ya kutoka Kisumu kuenda Busia. Sasa wakaanza kutupa hapo tena. Wakatupa hapo mpaka jana tarehe 14. Nimetoa hata oria hapa kwa maji.
18 bodies were male, while 1 was that of a woman.
As a facility, we cannot decline to receive the bodies. However, according to public health regulations, after 3 months' time, we are required to dispose of the bodies.
A local diver who retrieves the bodies from the river gives a graphical account of most of the bodies he has helped retrieve from the river.
Wengine wamekatwa kichwa, wengine wamenyongwa lakini wamefunga macho yao na nini na kitu kama jua la polythene wanafunga kabisa. Wengine unapata wanapiga mbafu yake mpaka imefunjika tayari. Kama huyo ria walipiga hapa mpaka ikafunjika kabisa. Ile tulitoa chini ni kama walibondeka kichwa yake, sasa inatoka damu yote na walifunga singo yake. Sasa mpaka juzi hiyo wiki tumetoa watu mwili pale chini na hao polisi hapa.
Game OCPD Charles Chacha, while confirming the incident, said it was difficult to ascertain if indeed those bodies were from within or had been swept down the river. He, however, says there is heightened surveillance around Dawa Bridge and Danu Falls, 2 locations that are allegedly being used by unknown people to toss bodies into the river. Atola Simon, Prime Edition, Kisumu County.
A very disturbing report there. Tonight in our weekly news feature segment, County Fact File, we cross over to the western region of Kenya and take a closer look at one of the 4 counties in the former Western Province, Vihiga County.
Did you know that 45% of the total population of Vihiga County is made up of children below the age of 14 years? Well, now you know. But how is that? According to the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics 2013, this situation is attributed to high fertility levels among Vihiga women. The county population, as per the 2019 national census, is 590,000, spread across the county's 531 square kilometers and covering 5 constituencies that include Vihiga, Sabatia, Habisi, Luanda, and Mboya. In terms of education, 20% of Vihiga County residents have secondary level of education and above, but 63% have only primary school level of education. 18% have no formal education. And what do Vihiga County residents use in terms of cooking fuel? 91% use firewood, 6% use charcoal, 2% use paraffin, while less than 1% use liquefied petroleum gas. And that is County Fact File.
Our connection with you runs deep, and just like you treasure your New Year resolutions, we highly value your sports needs. We are off to Germany for the DFB Pokal 2021-2022 round of 16. The match to look forward to is FC St. Pauli versus Borussia Dortmund, slated for Tuesday 18th of January 2022 at 10:45 p.m. FC St. Pauli have reached the round of 16 for the first time in 16 years, whereas Borussia Dortmund won the DFB Pokal for the 5th time last season. Catch this tie live and exclusive on KBC Channel 1. KBC, your true sports partner.
Ningekupa kipaumbele kama mke wangu. Mata simwelewi. Unagopata kumpa salamu. Manake taeleweke na vituko kama ni ule mzee. Mimi namjua mke wako kweli?
Furaha hakuna. Ndio mwanzo mambo yamezidi kuvurugika.
Tipili anayuko sawa.
Can you stop doing that?
Welcome to KBC Business. I am Cynthia Nyamai. Now, the government has condemned the destruction of electricity infrastructure, citing possible vandalism of power towers and sabotage as the cause for the electricity blackouts witnessed in the recent days. This emerged after connecting plates on 6 towers along the Alkarai-Kisumu high voltage power line were vandalized, and the issue discovered before the towers collapsed. Energy Principal Secretary Gordon says the government is investigating the issue and is urging Kenyans to report suspicious activities around the power towers.
A week ago, the country was plunged into darkness after the collapse of the towers along Kiambere and Bakasi high voltage transmission power line. This caused a nationwide blackout that lasted more than 8 hours, with some parts of the country staying in darkness for 2 days. This came nearly a month after 4 towers along the Loyengalani-Suswa high voltage line collapsed in Longonot area. And while investigations have been launched as to the cause of the blackout, the government is not ruling out vandalism and sabotage as more electricity towers along the Olkaria-Kisumu 400 kV line were vandalized in Naivasha.
Ile kitu ambao tunafanya leo ni kujaribu kuhakikisha kwamba tumerudisha hizi towers vile zilikuwa.
According to Kenya Electricity Transmission Company, KETRACO maintenance team, connecting plates on 6 towers had been tampered with, but early detection saved the country from another blackout.
Na hiyo vitu ambao parts ambao wametoa ni vitu ambao vinafanya hii tower kulegea, na kama baridi ingekuwa kwa wingi hii tower inaweza kuanguka.
Kenyans should not panic that they will lose power. No. We are going to repair these towers live.
Energy Principal Secretary Gordon Kihalangwa says investigations are ongoing to get to the bottom of this, adding that it's still too early to determine the real cause of similar incidents in Mukuru kwa Jenga and Longonot where power towers collapsed.
Incidents are being investigated, and it is the effort of the government to hear that we get to the bottom of exactly what is happening. So you cannot rule out vandalism.
He called on members of the public to volunteer information on suspicious activities around power line. KETRACO has been urged to install CCTV cameras and digitize the electricity infrastructure. Caroline Jinga for Prime Edition.
Now, President Uhuru Kenyatta has hailed the strong bilateral ties between Kenya and Hungary, saying the relationship is driven largely by economic cooperation, trade and investments. President Kenyatta has, however, regretted the low volumes of trade and investments flow between Nairobi and Budapest over the last 5 decades, despite the existing huge commercial potential.
To grow trade and investment volumes between Kenya and Hungary, leaders of the two countries are rallying the public agencies and businesses to intensify efforts to promote greater linkages and networks for business in order to tap the huge commercial potential.
The scope for expanding cooperation between our two countries is enormous, and this without even mentioning tourism, sports and culture, which have the potential to make an important contribution to the economic development of our respective countries, but also to strengthen people-to-people connections. These are important areas that we have committed ourselves to pay much closer attention to.
Speaking during a state banquet at State House, Nairobi, President Kenyatta said Kenya was counting on the support of Hungary to unlock the economic partnership agreement between the East African Community and the European Union that would open up more trading and economic opportunities.
I do hope that this will be further entrenched as we move forward in trying to drive greater linkages between the East African Community and the European Union through the finalization of the EPAS agreements.
The Hungarian President János Áder commended the Kenyan government for its commitment to improving the lives of Kenyans through transformational development programs and expressed optimism that the current development tempo will continue beyond President Kenyatta's term.
And I just wish that your successor would have the same kind of enthusiasm and drive to actually conclude all these programs with like the way you started.
President Áder, who arrived in Kenya on Sunday, is on a 4-day state visit. Reporting for Prime Edition, my name is Ibak Saeed.
Kenya Airways will from next month start a cargo route between Kisumu and the United Arab Emirates. Fresh Produce Consortium, Kenya's CEO Ojepato Segere says cargo flights will deliver horticulture produce from Kenya, Uganda and Tanzania twice a week to the United Arab Emirates.
Kenya has successfully negotiated for a market for chilies, peas and passion fruit in the United Arab Emirates, with the first cargo consignment expected to land in the Gulf nation next month. Kenya Airways is set to start twice weekly cargo flights from Kisumu to the Gulf nation. Kenya targets to export 32,000 tons of an assortment of horticultural produce weekly to the United Arab Emirates by the end of this year.
We're already engaging with the UAE and secured certain orders,
then there will be cargo flights leaving Kisumu and to the UAE.
To show up volumes for horticulture produce, Kenya will source chilies and passion fruit from Uganda and Tanzania.
Kenyans have been buying their chilies from Uganda and exporting them from Kenya. So we want to be very sure that the required agronomical practices have been harmonized within the East African community.
Kenya is asking European nations to offer alternatives to the over 200 pesticides whose use they want stopped. If EU effects the pesticide ban, Kenya's agricultural produce might face challenges accessing Europe. Benson Rioba reporting for Prime Edition.
Now, textile farms have urged farmers to venture into cotton farming in order to fill the raw material deficit within the industry that has forced them to resort to importation. Thika Cloth Mills Managing Director Tejaldo Dia has urged farmers to direct their yields to the 3 major textile factories in the country ahead of the harvesting season.
In order to boost the country's textile industry, the government had supplied farmers with genetically modified BT cotton seeds that had seen a boost in yields for farmers, providing as much as 3 times the initial harvest. While addressing farmers in Taita Taveta, Tejal said there will always be a ready market for the highly sought commodity, and the industry is constantly modernizing their machinery and boosting its workforce in order to provide for the textile demand within the country.
We really look forward to pushing this agenda much further, increasing the number of cotton farmers, increasing the employment in the sector, right from the spinning, weaving, processing, and then the garment manufacturing.
Stakeholders in cotton farmers' cooperative societies said they had sealed a commitment deal with Thika Cloth Mills, saying the cotton farming industry is still untapped and could provide a source of living for Kenyans. Farmers, however, said that the high prices of BT seeds is still a hindrance, saying the high initial production cost discourages farmers from engaging in the venture.
Kazi zitaongezeka. Vijana wetu watapata kazi. Sisi wenyewe tutajivunia kuvaa nguo zetu za kutoka Kenya kwa sababu tumelima pamba wenyewe na zinarudi tunavaa sisi wenyewe. Kwa hiyo tunaamini ya kwamba maendeleo yanazidi kupatikana.
Tumepanda pamba na tukavuna na wakaja wakatuchukulia na kila mmoja akawa na morali wa kusema kwamba watapanda pamba kwa mwaka huu kwa wingi.
They also noted that the exploitation by brokers was a matter of concern as it continues to debilitate the industry. Reporting for Prime Edition, my name is Ibak Saeed.
Now, moving on, the government has embarked on an aggressive campaign to grow rice production through a campaign that seeks to identify rice hubs, improve on varieties in order to increase production. The head of the rice production program, Dr. Mary Mutembei, says the ultimate goal is to reduce Kenya's import bill on rice.
A highly mechanized and efficient harvesting activity is currently ongoing here. An indication that the country is upscaling its rice farming capacity. According to the Ministry of Agriculture, Kenya spent 25 billion shillings last year on importation of rice despite tripling production from 50,000 metric tons to 150,000 metric tons in the last 10 years.
We are under a 10-year strategy to look at what are the challenges and what can we do to close that gap. So that period we wanted to double the production.
During a farmers' field day at the Bura irrigation scheme, stakeholders called for more efforts in increasing awareness and rice varieties.
To be able to have this gap reduced, we need to have strategic interventions. Some of these strategic interventions which we need to have is, for example, embracing improved high-yielding rice varieties.
Wangu kama mkulima wa Bura, nimeona mchele una faida sana nikilinganisha na mimea nyingine ambayo ni ya pamba na mahindi ya Kenya Seed na Commercial.
So far, the Kenya Agricultural Livestock Research Organization, KALRO, has released a total of 9 improved rice varieties for both upland and lowland areas. Other varieties in the pipeline are OLAC 6 and CO3 that are already at the national performance trial level. Currently, the demand for rice per individual per year is 20.6 kilos.
Now to international business, where China's central bank has cut the interest rate of medium-term lending facility MLF loans and reverse repos by 10 basis points amid the country's efforts to lower lending costs and further show up economic growth. Here are more details of this and more across the business globe.
People's Bank of China lowered the rate of 700 billion yuan worth of one-year MLF to financial institutions to 2.8% compared with 2.95% in the previous operation. It also added 100 billion yuan of funds into the market via 7-day reverse repos at an interest rate of 2.1% Monday, down from 2.2%. With 500 billion yuan worth of MLF and 10 billion yuan worth of reverse repos maturing on the same day, the aforementioned moves will lead to a net liquidity injection of 290 billion yuan into the market. Meanwhile, Amazon has pulled off plans to block UK Visa card credit payments this week as the two sides continue to try to resolve a dispute over payment fees. The expected change regarding the use of Visa credit cards in Amazon Core UK will no longer take place on January 19, but Visa accused Amazon of threatening to restrict consumer choice. Both Visa and its rival MasterCard have raised the so-called interchange fee on cross-border transactions between businesses in the UK and the European Union following Brexit.
All right, let's change gears now to sports with Karen Kibet.
Our connection with you runs deep, and just like you treasure your New Year resolutions, we highly value your sports needs. We are off to Germany for the DFB Pokal 2021-2022 round of 16. The match to look forward to is FC St. Pauli versus Borussia Dortmund, slated for Tuesday 18th of January 2022 at 10:45 p.m. FC St. Pauli have reached the round of 16 for the first time in 16 years, whereas Borussia Dortmund won the DFB Pokal for the 5th time last season. Catch this tie live and exclusive on KBC Channel 1. KBC, your true sports partner.
Welcome back. It's now time for us to take a look at what's making headlines in the world of sports. My name is Karen Kibet. Now, the National Olympic Committee of Kenya, NOC, has given sports federations in the country an ultimatum to meet the required gender ratio in the leadership in order to get grants from the committee. NOC Secretary General Francis Mutuku, who was speaking on day 2 of the ongoing Agnes Tirop conference in Diani, Kwale County, said that they will only fund federations that have a 60-40% gender ratio in the hierarchy.
In preparation for the 2024 Olympic Games in Paris, sport federations in Kenya have been given an ultimatum that needs to be met if they are to get grants from NOC. Speaking during day 2 of the Agnes Tirop conference in Diani, Kwale County, the National Olympic Committee of Kenya Secretary General Francis Mutuku said that they will only fund federations that have a 60-40% gender ratio in leadership.
This year we have the Commonwealth Games and we have the African Youth Games. We've written to our federations and requested them that for all the team management composition, it has to be on a 60-40 ratio on either gender, whether 60% women or 40% men or the other way around, whether it will be 40% women and 60% men. The most important thing is to ensure that there's no any gender which is excluded or which is a minority in terms of management.
Mutuku acknowledged that women participation in leadership has since increased from 18 in Beijing Olympic Games to 48 in last year's Tokyo Olympic, which is encouraging.
We made it a policy that predominantly will be putting forward women's team, because that gives an opportunity for Kenya to get 2 teams to be able to. For example, towards Tokyo 2020, we put in Malikia strikers and put the Kenya Lionesses. That enabled us to have at least funding for 2 teams.
The SG noted that they will work closely with the Federation to build capacity in sports leadership.
We appreciate that in a lot of fields the women have not got an opportunity, because these are historical programs which have brought us to this point. So we also need time to start leveling that particular ground. So we'll work a lot with federations to build the capacity of women.
At the same time, he reiterated that they will continue supporting Paralympics in their quest to excel in sports.
We put in a lot of work. We put in a lot of experts to come and work around us. What we promised the Paralympics, and we started off recently as 2 weeks ago, is that we shall be lending our expertise and our capacity to Paralympics and Deaf Olympics, so that they can also be able to come up.
Sports news from Diani, Kwale County. I am Anburu.
Thank you, Anne, for that report. Moving on, Kenya will not be represented in this year's Winter Olympics, slated for the 4th to 20th of next month in Beijing, China. This was confirmed by the National Olympics Committee of Kenya, which stated that the 3 athletes who were set to feature in the Games failed to honor qualification events due to travel restrictions brought about by the outbreak of the COVID-19.
Kenya had 2 Olympics and Paralympics hopefuls on the path to Beijing 2022, namely Sabrina Smeida of alpine skiing, Dennis Morange of cross-country skiing, and Daniel Kadeku Safari of paraskiing. Daniel Kadeku has been training through scholarships in South Korea and USA, but due to travel restrictions, he was unable to honor qualification events in the last 2 years. Denis Morange, a resident in Czech Republic, was in the path line to Olympics, but restrictions in Europe due to the coronavirus pandemic made him miss out qualification events to gain enough points for Beijing. Sabrina Smaida was the only one who had met the qualification standard. Nok had seen a great potential in her, disbursing 8 million shillings in the last 3 years towards her training and preparation. She, however, required more financial resources to sufficiently train for her specific event in which she qualifies in Beijing, and therefore felt she wasn't well prepared, opting instead to focus on the World Championship and tours this year with a clear focus of preparing for next Olympics. Frederick Moki for Prime Edition.
Thank you, Moki, for that report. Now, Poland striker Robert Lewandowski was crowned FIFA's best men's player of the year, beating Lionel Messi and Mohamed Salah, who finished 2nd and 3rd respectively. Manchester United Cristiano Ronaldo won the FIFA Special Award for the most international goals at the award ceremony held last night at Zurich in Switzerland.
But Lewandowski is FIFA's best man footballer of the year 2021. 33-year-old Lewandowski claimed the prize for the 2nd consecutive year after scoring 69 goals. He won ahead of Paris Saint-Germain's Lionel Messi and Liverpool's Mohamed Salah. Lewandowski broke the late guard Chelsea's Edward Mendy won the award for the best FIFA men's goalkeeper after a successful first season with the club, including a clean sheet in the 1-0 win over Manchester City in the Champions League final.
Thank you, Buckley, for that report. And finally, Britain's Andy Murray marked his return to the Australian Open, where in 2019 he thought he might have had to retire with a tense 5-set win over Georgian 21st seed Nicholas. Meanwhile, former finalist Petra suffered a painful first-round defeat by Serena on the 2nd day of the tennis tournament in Melbourne.
Britain's Andy Murray marked his return to the tournament with a tense 5-set win over Georgian 21st seed Nicholas Basilashvili. Murray cruised to the first set in 23 minutes, but any hopes of a routine win disappeared as Basilashvili recovered. Momentum swung both ways before the wildcard won 6-1, 3-6, 6-4, 6-7, 6-4. 34-year-old Murray was one of 3 Britons to win on Tuesday, with Heather Watson and Dan Evans also progressing. Daniil Medvedev moved into the second round with a straight-set victory over Switzerland's Henri Laaksonen. The US Open champion, the leading seed in the absence of Novak Djokovic, won 6-1, 6-4, 7-3 at Melbourne Park.
Game. Nice way to finish it off. Daniil Medvedev is through to the second round here for the 5th consecutive year at the expense.
And those are all the sports stories we had for you tonight right here at the KBC Sports News. I'll see you tomorrow, same time, same place. But for now, do have yourself a peaceful night. My name is Karen Kibet. I hand you back to Tom and Purity for more.
Thank you, Marakot. The lady in red.
And that brings us to the end of Prime Edition this Tuesday night. Thank you so much for your company. Every Monday and Tuesday, we will be bringing you comprehensive news. So see you again next week, God willing. And of course, good night and God bless. I'm Purity Museo. Susan Puku has been our sign language interpreter tonight.
On behalf of the other team members on KBC Prime Edition, thank you for watching. I'm Mboya. Good night and God bless you. Bye-bye.
She doesn't deserve to be treated like that.
Why did you still choose to live with people that you don't really know?
Now that I'm back, was I able to put flowers on his grave?
Mariela?
Even from afar, it's obvious that you're seducing Santiago. Oh, come on. Just stop it. I've seen you a lot of times flirting with him.
Demian Ferrer is a mean person and a very rich and powerful one. Fighting him or anyone of his family is a lost battle. Leonardo Del Rio is back here in town.
Tell him Mariela Salvatierra was here and she's looking for him.
Mariela?
Yes!
Lying heart.
Our connection with you runs deep, and just like you treasure your New Year resolutions, we highly value your sports needs. We are off to Germany for the DFB Pokal 2021-2022 round of 16. The match to look forward to is FC St. Pauli versus Borussia Dortmund, slated for Tuesday 18th of January 2022 at 10:45 p.m. FC St. Pauli have reached the round of 16 for the first time in 16 years, whereas Borussia Dortmund won the DFB Pokal for the 5th time last season. Catch this tie live and exclusive on KBC Channel 1. KBC, your true sports partner.
touch a bit. Hey, I'm looking for my money, where you are? Sijalala nyumbani, money on my mind.